Hello, everyone. Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joining you, and it is Tuesday. We have a lot of weather to talk about across the nation. We're going to do that coming up in this episode. Some very hot weather in the northern plains, wildfire smoke impacting a large portion of the northern portion of the United States. And we're all eyes on the Gulf Coast as what will be Hurricane Francine will take aim on portions of the Gulf Coast. We'll have details on that, some thunderstorms in the forecast as well. We'll have all that coming up next. This is Hutch's Weather. Stay tuned for the very latest.
Now, a Hutch's Weather Update with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson, brought to you by Robert Gibb and Sons.
All right, without further ado, the northern lights surrounding me here, a good chance of those as we head into the overnight hours, and it could sneak down into some areas of the country that don't frequently get to see them. Now, here in the northern plains, the chances will be outstanding. And because we have indices that are ramped up a little bit, we could see, well, this extend down into parts of the central United States. It could be one of our better chances. Now, not all of us will have clouds. We'll take a look at that first. Let's take a look at some satellite imagery from across the nation today. But before we do that, let me talk a little bit about these northern lights. Number one, if you do happen to capture some photos of them, I invite you to upload them to my website, hutchesweather.com. It's a great place to share your shots and your experiences. Tell us a little bit about it in the comments, and make sure you check out the page. Let me know your thoughts there as well. So the chances are not only tonight on Tuesday night, but Wednesday night as well. Again, northern lights happen as solar energy from geomagnetic storms on the surface of the earth, otherwise known as sunspots. Sometimes those sunspots explode with energy and direct that energy earthward. Now, if that energy works its way earthward, it can interact with Earth's magnetic field. And when that happens, it can excite ions in atoms and different gases in our atmosphere. And those different gases, well, they emit different colors of light, and it can be real beautiful, as you see here behind my car in the background. Now, here's a look at one forecast. Now, this goes out 27 days. It's real hard to forecast the weather 27 days out, but where we see KP values, KP index values that are 3 or above, then there's a decent chance. Now, KP values in the lower digits, around 3, there's a chance of those northern lights along the northern tier of the United States. But when it gets up into the 5 and 6 category, that is why I believe this Tuesday night, when you look at those dates, that's tonight, there's going to be a chance for some northern lights elsewhere across the nation tonight. So keep that in mind. That chance does last into the day on Wednesday and into Wednesday evening, but sometime in that time frame, it is expected to drop back down to 3 or 4. So the better chance on Wednesday night will likely be in the northern tier of counties. So if you live down south, there's a chance of it in the forecast there. Now, as we look, things look to be fairly quiet until we get out a little bit farther, and this is highlighting some time frame anywhere around the 26th to the 29th of the month, maybe even into the 30th of the month. How can we know so much 27 days out with regards to, well, the northern lights? Well, it's because it takes 27 days for the sun to rotate about its axis, and there are sunspots that are being monitored by our government scientists, and there will be a few more pointed earthward, possibly, as we get a little later in the month. So some nuggets of truth there about the northern lights. Again, upload your photos. Now let's take a look at what's going on in the forecast here. And to do that, we're going to focus on a couple of different areas. First, I'm going to look at the northern plains and the smoke. And to do that, we'll take a look at the United States forecast model. And what I'm going to do here is put this up. We're going to look at the entire country, and we're going to go ahead and pull up some details with regards to smoke in the forecast first, and then we'll look at the tropical storm that is expected to become a hurricane here in detail in just a minute. Smoke limited some of the heat today in the northern plains. It's very thick out there, and we can look at a couple of different types of smoke on these computer forecast models, and we can only go out a few hours, about 48 hours, and the reason being because, well, fires change, and that's a source point for the smoke. But the colors you see here are near surface smoke, so this is a kind that gets in your lungs and that you breathe in, and anywhere you see the orange colors to red colors or even pink colors in the mountains of western Montana by the president's nose out there in Idaho, as well as Oregon, where there are source points for these fires, those levels are really actually health problems. So there will be some very thick smoke in the northern Rockies, and it will spread into the Dakotas as we go through. Now we're going to go ahead and sneak back to a forecast model that goes out just a little bit farther in time. Here we go. Now, as this is loading up, we'll scroll through the time frame tonight. This will be at dinner time in the Central Plains. We'll see some pretty thick smoke continuing from around, say, Grand Forks and Fargo, North Dakota, right along the North Dakota-South Dakota border. And it's ridiculously thick out there in the Rocky Mountain West. That extends all the way out to some point source fires in places of Washington State, Oregon, and look at the desert Southwest, Southern California, with mountains on fire there. Now, as we take a look at the forecast trend, we're going to see this kind of a circulation just lock in the smoke, but not quite as thick as we go into your Wednesday morning here in the northern plains. But look at out west. It just continues to deliver thick levels of smoke across the Rocky Mountain West. It slides down in places like Reno, Tahoe, and those areas as we head into the day on Thursday. So that's the level of smoke at the surface that we can breathe. By the way, the gray means we'll still have some smoke in the atmosphere. So if you have respiratory illness, it's something to pay attention to, and you may want to limit your exposure. Now, we can also measure smoke particulates in the depth of the atmosphere, and that's what this particular model is looking at. It looks more widespread, but that's because not all the smoke impacts us at the surface. But anywhere in these areas with the abundant amounts of smoke in the sky, when the sun rises, when the sun sets, all this junk and crapola in the atmosphere will generally cause that sunlight to bend and scatter through all of these particulates, causing very deep orange and red sunrises and sunsets as well. So keep that in mind, but it really looks to be very thick as we go through the next 48 hours here. And we may see a little bit of a break as some of the smoke moves into the northern reaches of the Great Lakes. So that is a look at what we have going on as far as smoke goes. Now we're going to change the scene just a little bit, and we're going to look a little bit at that forecast for the hurricane. But first, I do want to take a look at the forecast model. This is, again, a high-resolution model. I do want to move things around just a little bit on the screen here so you can better see what it is that's going on in the southern plains. So to do that, I'm going to lock into a different portion of the country here. So bear in mind, while I maneuver around on this model, we'll look at the Gulf Coast states here. Let's look at Texas and Louisiana. So now, as we zoom in, I'm going to disappear off the screen, and we'll just chat with you about what you're going to see with regards to the forecast over the next 48 hours. And there definitely is some concern as we go through. Now let's start right here. As the storm system is well down near Brownsville, Texas, heading into the evening hours, the outer bands of this system will work their way up coastal and mainly impact parts of southern Louisiana as we head into the 10 o'clock to midnight time frame tonight, Central Time. Here comes the intensifying storm system. We know it is intensifying because the number of bullseye circles around this low, the L that you see there, is, well, that's Francine. And Francine will still be off the shores, but the main eye of the storm there, located where the L is on the map, will be heading in the general direction of central Louisiana and towards places like New Orleans. Now, as we talk about, and we'll talk about in the forecast model here, the eastern side of this storm, the New Orleans side of this storm, will have the higher surges because there is the wind that's rotating counterclockwise around this storm system, and that is going to cause the storm surge on the east side to be higher because the winds on the west side will be coming from the north, and that's an offshore flow, so that will help. So in this scenario, there'll be some intense winds that will accompany this storm. Some models have this making landfall around a Category 2 storm as it works its way northward. Not all models agree on the exact or precise location, but my friends at the National Hurricane Center do an outstanding job at identifying what we call a cone of uncertainty, and we're going to talk just a little bit about that as we head into the forecast here. Now let's do that right now. First, keep in mind, as you're looking at the Tropical Storm Francine page, tropical storm levels are what we're measuring right now. But the forecast, as we look at the forecast, here are some things we're concerned about. Life-threatening storm surge for parts of Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, the coastlines. Storm surges could exceed 5 to 7 feet in some areas, damaging and life-threatening. Hurricane force winds are expected for portions closer to the eye of the storm as this makes landfall and approaches the landfall. And Francine is expected to bring heavy rain and the risk of flash flooding. And also, as is the case in these type of systems, when they work their way on land and on shore, tornadoes can be a threat as well, which is just unbelievable. And I personally have never experienced a hurricane living in the northern plains, but I can tell you, they're big storms and nothing to mess with. Now, what we're going to look at where the peak storm surge will be, and we'll take a look at the map by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, along with the National Hurricane Center. We're looking right here at that Vermilion Bay area, 5 to 10 foot surges right there in the red. And that is where some of the highest storm surges will be, upwards of 10 feet. We get on to the eastern side here as we look in towards the New Orleans area and Lake Pontchartrain up here. We're talking storm surges between 5 to 7 feet for many along these areas. When we get up into Mississippi, thanks to the landfall here and the winds being that way as opposed to straight from the south, this little nugget of land right here may help, at least in this scenario and direction of movement of the storm, reduce some of that storm surge across portions of the Mississippi Delta there heading in towards Mobile. That's the way it looks right now. This could change a little bit, so if you happen to be in these areas, make sure you heed those warnings and advisories. Flash flooding, some of the heaviest of the rain, by the way, looks like it will be falling offshore, but where you see the flooding risk in red, this is at least a 40% chance at having some flash flooding concerns. So not far from Lake Charles is the red area, and that's the area of concern. There's at least a 15% chance in the Lake Charles area of seeing some significant flooding. But notice this, New Orleans, Lake Pontchartrain, you are in this moderate area of concern for flash flooding. Now, when we take a look at the warnings and the cones map here, we want to point out that the general track and expectations for this storm is to work its way through the Gulf and make landfall in the central to the eastern part of Louisiana, and it will impact with strong winds and heavy rain the Mississippi Delta all the way through Mississippi, and then as we work our way later in the week, it will work its way right up the Mississippi Delta and impact parts of eastern Arkansas. So that is a look at what is going on with Francine with regards to that track and forecast. See if we can pop up a little bit of a forecast detail on the cone and area of forecast. So let's see here. I got to go back a step or two, and here we go. Arrival times and a little bit of the details on that. Let's look at this. This will be helpful as well. Here's the current position. This is a tropical storm symbol. By the time we get to 8 p.m. on this Tuesday evening, it will be making its way into the central Gulf Coast, passing through the areas near Houston, and it doesn't look like it's going to make a direct impact to Houston, but there will be some outer bands that will impact your area and winds. By 2 a.m. on Wednesday, it's really getting closer to the shoreline, and here we go as we cross in beyond that and head into the morning hours on Wednesday. So again, that is something to be concerned about down there with the timing of the storm system there. Where you see, by the way, the dashed line and the solid line here, this is where we expect the storm to do some intensification from tropical storm levels increasing in strength with wind speeds greater than hurricane strength as they work their way in. Hurricane strength winds 74 miles per hour. I'm going to look for a couple of questions on board here, and thanks for watching. You can always drop a name and let me know where you're watching from. Watching from portions of North Dakota and Minnesota, my home territory. Clarine, good to see you. Thanks so much, Tracy, for watching. And that is a look at what we have going on. Let's see. Am I having some difficulties here? No, it doesn't look like it. It looks like the stream is live. Now I want to check my viewers out there on the YouTube channel to see if we have any details there. Gwen watching. Hi, good to see you on board. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you as I take a look. I don't have a lot of questions right now, so that's what we're looking at with regards to the forecast. Okay, now we're going to button up the forecast for the Northern Plains here, and then we may load up a model and take a look at that real quick as well. So as we wrap up what's going on, here is what we are watching for. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so I will move things around just a little bit here, and now I'll be able to show you some model guidance in the forecast for the Northern Plains, and then we'll sneak down and look at the south as well. So here we go. All right, now as we go through the overnight hours tonight in the Northern Plains, the Dakotas on into Minnesota, there'll be a chance for some showers and thunderstorms in the Twin Cities as we go through the early evening. Those will exit out. There'll be some thunder shower development in the Western Dakotas. Look at the timestamp on this. This is in the morning, so a chance for some morning showers there. And again, remember, thick smoke in the Northern Plains. The heat is on. Temperatures will be kissing 90 degrees for many in the Northern Plains. And there'll be a chance for some thunderstorms to pop off of a little upper level disturbance working its way into the western Dakotas. Some of those storms could be strong, but the risk of severe is not great as we go through your Wednesday afternoon and evening. So again, for aurora viewing in the northern plains tonight, much of the eastern portion of the Dakotas having a great chance at seeing it with relatively clear skies. So we go through the overnight hours. Showers and thunderstorms zip more up towards Manitoba than into the Red River Valley of the Dakotas as we go through. And notice another round of showers and storms that will carry us from our Wednesday night into Thursday in the western Dakotas and eastern parts of the Big Sky country of Montana. So that's a look at the forecast there. Now we're going to do a rewind. Back we go, and now let's take a check at what's going on down here with regards to our tropical storm, Francine. So here is the storm system, the eye of the storm. We're going to reposition this map. So outer bands of the storm will be approaching the shores of East Texas, Houston, Louisiana, and all the way out towards, say, the Brownsville area of Texas as well. Now, the storm will glide out and head into the central waters of the Gulf. And as it does so, that's going to bring the increased risk for the greatest winds and storm surge into parts of central and, as mentioned, eastern Louisiana. So here this storm, and let me get in just a little bit tighter. I want to point out this interesting feature about the eye once it gets a little bit closer to land. And it seems like I have some radar data on here now, so let me turn that off. I apologize that is on. Let me see. There we go. Now that was making it a little confusing. The radar data is off. This is future radar for the 11 o'clock hour in the morning on Wednesday. This round circle here is the eye, and that is an intensifying eye, and the storm system will be bringing these bands of very heavy rain through. What I wanted to point out, as I'll get out my pencil here, is on this eastern side of the storm, the winds are going this way around a hurricane. So that is the direction of flow around that storm. On the other side of the storm near Orange and Lafayette, we'll start to see those winds coming back out of the north. So these winds are coming offshore. Number one, that's helpful for storm surge, making it a little lower on the west side of this particular storm orientation. And as it works its way up toward Lafayette, the best or greatest surges will be felt from the eye and points east of that eye, where the strongest winds will be driving those waves. Not only that, the speed of the storm moving up this way adds to the winds it's creating. So that is why the greatest storm surge chances and impacts will likely be felt as we look from the eye and points east. Let me turn off the telestrator. We'll go back into the forecast transit, and you can look at this system work its way towards the shore, and we'll get a little bit of a feel for the timing of when it's expected to make its way closer to land. Now, once we get into midday hours, Morgan City, Franklin, Houma, all the way out toward New Orleans, we're going to start seeing the impacts of these heavier winds. So it's this area here where we'll really have that potential for some significant wind impacts from the storm and that storm surge. And then it kind of wobbles a little bit on this particular model run. So we'll have to pay attention. Different models are showing different solutions here, but it does look like central portions of the Louisiana coast and points east, and plentiful rain from New Orleans all the way in toward Lake Pontchartrain will be hitting the area as we go through. That is a look at your forecast. Again, I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I sure appreciate all of your participation on Hutch's Weather and hutchesweather.com. I want to take just a brief moment to show you the website, show you where you can go to upload your photos of northern lights or weather reports across the area. This is hutchesweather.com. If you happen to be watching when I'm streaming live like right now, there'll be an alert at the top of the page. You go down, you can get your local forecast, and scrolling down, you can see my recent video updates as well as this, your photos and videos uploaded here. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple that have been uploaded because they have been fantastic. And I have to give thanks to all of those who have. We've had something called a heat burst here in the area. You may have seen my post on that if you've been on my Facebook post. Overnight, we had some thunder showers move through. And I first got some notification this morning, and we'll go ahead and give credit where credit's due. David in the Cullum area says, Hutch, our temperatures went from the upper 60s, around 65 to 67 degrees, and shot up into the 80s as we went into the morning hours. It was hot. Well, that's called a heat burst. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we had a heat burst across the area. And you tracked it and uploaded and asked. And then once I mentioned it and did a post on my Facebook page, which you can see there, look at this. More photos came in. This is from Ashley, North Dakota. Kirk said, the bank said 86 degrees at 3:30 in the morning. Now, that's not common up in places of North Dakota or South Dakota, and the temperatures had already fallen into the 60s, only to be surging upward. What causes that? Well, that's those convective currents. If you have thunder showers moving through, you have rising air, but you also can have sinking air. And if that sinking air, well, as air sinks, it compresses and warms. But if it's dry, oh boy, that dry air wants to sink even faster. And that can cause gusts of wind with these heat bursts as well to come through. Sometimes they can be damaging. Didn't hear any reports of that, but certainly a very interesting weather feature moving through the northern plains. Thanks for uploading your photos in advance. If you see the northern lights tonight, make sure that you check it out. And for those of you who have stuck around, let me check and see. Do you have any questions? Are you still there? Let me see. Where are you? Who's still here? Okay, Grand Forks, North Dakota, watching from Red Lake Falls. Good to have you on board. I am going to be out live tonight at a local place getting you. If you have kids that are interested in weather, come on out, say hi to Hutch, and sign up to be a Hutch's Weather Kid at my sponsor's location at Luther Family Ford. Here's a little bit of information on that, and I'd love to have you there to sign up. Meteorologist Hutch Johnson here. Cruise on over to Luther Family Ford today between 5 and 7 p.m. to sign up to be a Weather Kid. Signing up is easy. I will be there, and I can't wait to meet you. And you can sign up right there. Come on down and sign up today to be a Hutch's Weather Kid, proudly presented by Luther Family Ford. Again, today, Tuesday, September 10th, between 5 and 7 o'clock this evening. All right, so kids, if you have a hankering or an interest in weather at all, like Hutch, I was always staring at the clouds when the storms were moving through, then come on down to Luther Family Ford. I'd love to meet you, and I'd love to get you signed up to be a weather kid this season right here on Hutch's Weather. We will actually do it right on location at Luther Family Ford. Big green screen and all. Love to see you there. Well, for now, I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday evening. Smoky skies, but a chance at the northern lights tonight. An update coming a little later after the big event, the sign-up event at Luther Family Ford. Have a wonderful evening.